Hello everybody, thank you for letting me join Yorkshire Yarn Fest today. Thanks to go to Sophie for letting me take part in this. But yeah, thanks for letting me join everybody. Nice to see you all here today. It's been really nice to watch everybody doing their live streams. My name's Emma, or some of you might know me as Bruni. I'm the heritage crafter and knurl binding specialist here at Nidavellnir, and what I mainly do here as a heritage crafter is I teach people the ancient craft of knurl binding, which is the historical precursor to knitting and crochet. And in this particular craft you just used one single needle, normally historically a bone needle like so, and you are creating your stitches one stitch at a time, making sure all your stitch and textiles are uniform tension to slowly build up your textiles. And this is how in the past people such as people in the Viking Age would make garments such as hats, socks, mittens, bags, more accessory items and things like that. So knurl binding has got a very long historical and ancient past. And one of the things that makes my business quite unique is the fact that everything that you'll see on my Etsy shop and on my Instagram and Facebook page everything's all handcrafted and handmade and designed by me. I feel a little bit of a fraud coming to you guys today because I've only recently just started adventuring into the world of yarn and spinning my own yarn. It's one thing that I decided to do last year in lockdown was crack out the spinning wheel that I have and knuckle down and get ready to learn. And as a result of that, I have one yarn that I have made that I can show you guys today. And the link will be on my Etsy shop and also on my Facebook page as well, and on the Instagram too. So do go check that out afterwards. So because I'm a heritage crafter, what I tend to work in are a lot of single ply super chunky worsted weight yarns, because they're the most comparable to the items that we have from the historical and archaeological record for knurl binding. So what I wanted to do was be able to learn myself how to be able to spin these chunky and super chunky yarns, but I want to be able to use British rare breed yarn and wool to make my yarns. So I managed to get a nice stash of Manx Lockton wool, which is just like a cloud, so soft, smells gorgeous, wonderful to spin as well. And this is my my efforts. It's not just one ball. I have got several balls of yarn in this gorgeous Manx Lockton, and it's all natural, it's all undyed, it's all been hand spun, and as you can see, it's in this really nice, thick, chunky, super chunky weight. Because it's hand spun, as you can see, it is irregular, so it's a bit more of a textured yarn, a bit more of a slub craft yarn, if you like. But this kind of yarn for knurl binding, especially historical items, or even if you wanted to knurl bind or knit or crochet something that was really sort of unique out of some rare breed, British rare breed wool, I can imagine this coming up a treat. I have made a couple of hats that you'll see on my Etsy shop out of this particular yarn, so you can see that it gives a really, really rustic, gorgeous, dense textile. And obviously, depending on what knurl binding stitch you use, you can change the pattern and the depth as well. So yeah, this is my offerings to the wonderful Yorkshire Yarn Fest and Sophie and you guys. I have made 6 balls of Manx Lockton super chunky textured yarn. So I will be working on making more yarns like this, because there is certainly a lack of making items in sort of this kind of chunky-ish yarn, especially rare breed wool. And I'm very, very lucky because today I have had a wonderful delivery of Boré fleece that has come from the local Marlfield farm here in Yorkshire. So I'm going to be washing, combing, processing and spinning that Boré up into a super chunky yarn that will become available for everybody as well. And of course I'll make something for myself as well out of it. But yeah, that's my offerings yarn related. But I can see a couple of you in the comments, I've seen a few familiar faces have sort of mentioned about my nail binding for beginners resources, and that's one thing that sort of I've wanted to do for a long time. Back in 2018 I actually launched my nail binding for beginners book. So inside this book it teaches you the beginner's stitch, and it also teaches you how to go through making your first items, teaches you how to make a hat, a simple beanie type hat, also teaches you how to make fingerless mittens and full mittens using nail binding as a historical craft as well. So you can get the book available on my Etsy shop. You can also get it in a digital download format, which is something that I was playing around with last year, making sure that I could get things more accessible for people. But also the nail binding for beginners starter kit has gone down a treat as well. So within the starter kit you get the book, you get 2 balls of 100% pure wool. You also get your bone nail binding needle. So all of these materials complement each other really, really well and give you a really good sort of understanding of how this craft begins. And oh, I've just seen on the comments a really good couple of questions actually. I'll highly recommend it. Thank you, Jackie. It's very kind. Yes, have I any courses coming up? Yes, I have recently put some of my nail bound items, starter kits, needles and resources into a shop on the York High Street, Fabrication Crafts. And I am running nail binding for beginners courses and workshops throughout the summer. Had a few bookings already, which is really, really nice. Bookings are still open, so if you'd like to come and learn nail binding with myself at Fabrication Crafts, that would be great to see you. If you're a complete beginner, brilliant. If you've given it a go, brilliant. You know, come along, give it a try, come and learn from a different kind of tutoring aspect. What I teach very sort of instinctively based from the archaeology. And yeah, it'd be great to have your company. I just wanted to briefly show you while I've got a bit of time. Just going to check how much time we've got going. Perfect. Just want to show you and take you through some of the items that I also sell on my Etsy shop, because as well as the nail binding for beginners resources, I sell the nail binding needle. So like I mentioned, you can purchase a bone nail binding needle. I've handcrafted some oak ones as well, and I've also handcrafted some limewood ones too, so you can have a browse through, see what you fancy. But yeah, I mainly tend to spend most of my time making nail bound hats. Because I'm a heritage crafter, I mainly make items for historical reenactment, whether that be for the Viking period or medieval period. And I also, of course, make custom items. So if people want a modern hat with a unique historical twist, I can use native red reed yarns, or I can use more commercial yarns. If people want to supply their own wool, I can make up items for them. So this hat is a Herdwick hat that I've used alternating light and medium colour schemes on. And this particular stitch is called the single Danish stitch. It's one of the oldest stitches that we've got from the archaeological record. It dates to around 4200 BC in Denmark. The archaeological evidence surviving is of sort of fragmented remains. So I've used the stitches and these fragmentary remains to inspire my own work and create items such as this hat. So you can see with the single Danish stitch here, because I'm alternating and spiraling my textile out from a centrally knotted point, I get this nice striped effect. And as you can see, it's really, really dense nail binding. Because you're controlling the stitch tension on each stitch you do, you can get a really, really strong, durable item. But because it's knotted in effect, you get a lot of stretch, a bit of bounce as well. And that's the balance with this particular craft, is that you've got to kind of refine it to the point where you know how to manipulate the stitches to be able to get some really nice shaping going on. And that really benefits you when you start to learn to make things like hats and mittens and socks. So yeah, we've got a Herdwick hat that's available in my Etsy shop at present. I know we're still in summer at the moment, but as you can probably gather, I'm always in winter mode, always ready and raring for when the weather turns. So I've got some fingerless mittens in my Etsy shop as well, and these ones are actually part of a mitten and hat set that go together, and the yarn that I've used for this is again farm-based yarn. It's Shetland wool that's been hand dyed with alder buckthorn and mordanted with alum, so it's all hand dyed natural dyes and processes, and hand spun yarn as well. And again, I've done the single Danish stitch, and you can see that you get this really nice striping effect when you start to use different yarns in alternating patterns, which is really nice. And again, you can see the good thing about knarl binding is that it's snuggly, but yeah, you get a nice bit of stretch and you can tuck them in and keep everything nice and cozy, which is grand. So yeah, these are available on my Etsy shop too. If you wanted something a little bit more sturdier, I do also have a range of Icelandic wool items, and especially mittens, big old mittens, keep your fingers and toes warm. Icelandic wool, really solid, really strong when it comes to knarl binding. It works up really well, and here you might be able to see that the pattern is slightly different in this particular mitten, in this particular item, and that's because I have knarl bound this out of the York stitch, knarl binding stitch, because here in York we have the only surviving example of knarl binding in the UK, and that is at the Coppergate sock, and that's held at the York Viking Centre. So it's a pretty incredible item. So to use that historical object as a bit of inspiration to make things like mittens is fabulous. I'm just going to check my timing again. We also have things like this that I make. This is a replica of the Coppergate sock. So you can see it's a slipper sock in shape and form, made of the York stitch. This sock is based on the historical item that's at the York Viking Centre, and you can see that it's all made in one go, and then you shape your stitches around the heel to bring your sock into form. And this is made out of Castlemeck, Moray and Boré yarn as well. So this is really solid, really snuggly, perfect for keeping your toesies warm. So yeah, 15 minutes goes really quick, quite clearly. So thank you for letting me join in today, everybody. It's great to have some questions, great to see everybody scrolling through. Do feel free to pop over to @Nidavellnir on Instagram, and you'll be able to see videos of the different stitches, some of the historical evidence as well. And yeah, if you can like and follow what I get up to on my social media, that'll be grand. But thanks again to Sophie for everything. Really look forward to watching the rest of the Yorkshire Yarn Fest, and take care for now, everyone. Bye.